What made you hospitalize 30 strangers? Every Sunday, my brother Lorenzo and I learned recipes in Nona's tiny kitchen. She'd tap our hands with her wooden spoon when we rushed the dough. Amore takes time. When cancer stole her voice last spring, she couldn't speak her final words, leaving only a note in her recipe book. You only have each other now. Always remember the happy days we spent cooking. I'll be there, in that sweet memory. After the funeral, Lorenzo found her recipe box and held it against his chest. We'll open a food truck, he said. Keep her alive through her food. We painted it with Sicilian lemons just like her kitchen walls. Those first months, we worked side by side. Lorenzo made his arancini in the morning while I made mine in the afternoon. Customers loved them both. He'd touch her photo above the register after every sale and say she watched over us. We even talked about opening a restaurant someday. But when we both made arancini for the summer festival and mine outsold his by triple, he looked genuinely shocked. Did she teach you something different? He asked. The thing about Lorenzo was he'd always needed to be Nona's favorite, and suddenly he was convinced she'd given me secret ingredients or techniques she'd kept from him. That's when things started getting weird. He started showing up at 4 a.m. to prep, just sitting in his truck watching me through the window. He asked customers detailed questions about why they chose my food over his. When I suggested we rotate who made what, his whole face changed like I'd slapped him. You think you're better than me, he said. Nona sees what you're doing. I decided to get my own truck to give him space, and that's when everything fell apart. The day I told him, he threw Nona's photo at me. We promised her, he screamed. We promised to stay together. Two of our best workers followed me to the new truck, and Lorenzo called them traitors. He'd park next to me at every event and tell customers I used cheap ingredients. Other vendors warned me that Lorenzo had been asking strange questions about my suppliers and cooking methods. He later filed complaints with the health department saying I'd stolen his recipes. One night I got 17 calls from him between midnight and 4 a.m. When I finally answered, he just breathed into the phone and whispered, Nona knows what you did. The worst part was seeing him alone in the truck we painted together, talking to Nona's photo like she could hear him. Then came the morning that changed everything. That morning at the Heritage Festival went smooth through the breakfast rush. Around 11, I took my usual break between crowds. I stretched my back and noticed Lorenzo duck out of my truck and hurry toward his own. My gut twisted, but when I checked inside, nothing looked touched. My tomatoes sat in their containers. My oil bottles stood full. Everything exactly where I'd left it. The lunch crowd came fast and I pushed the worry down, focused on orders. I just handed change to a customer when a woman ordered 2 arancini for her kids. They bit into them at my window, and the older one's face crumpled. He spit everything onto the ground while the younger one grabbed his throat and started wailing. The mother screamed at me and demanded to know what I'd done to the food. My hands went numb. More customers started choking and spitting. People I'd just served dropped to their knees on the grass. Parents poured water into their kids' mouths while someone behind me called 911. I couldn't move. I stood there gripping my frying basket and watched my food hurt people. When I looked at Lorenzo's truck, he stood at his window watching everything unfold, not helping, not even pretending to care, just smiling like he'd won something. The police cuffed both of us while I watched the paramedics work. I counted 30 people on the ground. 30. In the holding cell, Lorenzo hummed Nona's lullaby and rocked back and forth next to me. She visited my dreams, he said, his voice peaceful. Showed me how you poisoned her recipes with your American filth, so I blessed your tomatoes with her funeral herbs, the ones they dressed her body with. He grabbed my face and his fingers felt like ice. They tasted death because you killed her legacy. I saved her from you. They kept us in separate cells after that. Around midnight, an officer came to get me. They'd raided Lorenzo's truck first. Inside, they found jars everywhere, dozens of them filled with dried herbs that smelled like death. Then they showed me the security footage from my apartment complex. There was Lorenzo at 3 a.m. picking my truck lock with the keys we used to share. The timestamp showed he spent 47 minutes inside. The detective opened Lorenzo's notebook, and my legs almost gave out. Page after page of my truck with measurements, lists of which herbs would purify the contamination of her legacy. He'd been planning this for weeks. They found the empty herb containers he'd used to soak my tomatoes, hidden behind his passenger seat. There's enough concentrated funeral herbs here to poison half the city, the detective said. Your brother wrote down exactly how much he used. He wanted us to know. They released me at dawn, but I couldn't stop shaking. Lorenzo's at the state psychiatric facility now, where they let him cook 3 times a week. Last month, he sent me Nona's marinara recipe with new ingredients. Where it used to say oregano, he'd written 1 tablespoon of dried human skin, finely grated.